So I speak pretty openly about the anxiety that I used to suffer from when I was having mental health issues quite a few years ago. And even though I don't suffer from panic attacks anymore or have acute anxiety, I definitely do still have tendencies towards anxiety. And I think at the moment now, with what's going on around the world, it's a time where we really do need to take care of our mental health. And a lot of us are suffering from anxiety because of the collective fear and anxiousness that is kind of around at the moment. So I wanted to share some tips with you all of how I help my own anxiety and also how I prevent it. So in terms of prevention, it's basically just taking care of myself with various different self-care techniques. So I'd say the first thing is that I don't have sugar, or at least try and cut down on refined sugar, because for me that really affects my mental health and makes me feel very anxious. And I know it might sound really silly and some people might not believe that, but maybe just try it yourself and see how it makes you feel when you eliminate refined sugar from your diet, and if it keeps you calmer for a longer period of time. Also, I know it might sound really basic, but try and get lots and lots of sleep. I definitely find that helps me. Also, I've become very specific about the environments and the people that I surround myself with. And that might sound a bit brutal, but I am very specific about who I allow energetically into my life, even if that's just on a phone call or physically in person. I'm very particular about who I like to surround myself with, because I do think that people's energies can brush off on you. So if you're surrounding yourself with fearful people all the time who want to spread their negativity, that's going to rub off on you and also affect your mental health and your anxiety. And in terms of the environments that I like to surround myself with, as much as possible I try and get out into nature, and that's an amazing place to just ground yourself, hug some trees, touch the ground. That can relax you so much. So now my tips for when I'm feeling anxious. So something that I really love to do is either go for a run or a walk. I always find that helps me so much when my anxiety is kind of starting to overload, basically, because I feel like moving your body allows a lot of release of energy, so that definitely helps me a lot. And coming back to my previous point as well about being out in nature, I try and do this out in nature as much as possible. So, as I said, hug trees, ground yourself in the ground. It is actually scientifically proven that when we get overly anxious, we're positively charged. And when we touch the ground, which has a slight negative electromagnetic charge, that kind of neutralizes us. So that's why it calms us so much. So that's what they call grounding. Also, I use this technique called EFT tapping, which is basically when you tap on various different meridian points. And I know it might sound really silly, but you say particular things as you're doing it, and it just releases a lot of energy while you're doing it, and it happens almost immediately. So I'm going to actually put some resources in the video below to really give people directions with that, but that's definitely something I would look into if you suffer from anxiety, because it helps me so much and it can really get rid of the issue so quickly. Also, I find that breath work really helps me. It sounds so simple that something just as small as your breath can really have such a huge impact on you, but even just by breathing in for 5, holding for 5, and then out for 5, already that can start to calm you so much. And meditation is something that I do every day, but also when I'm feeling anxious, that's definitely something that I turn to, because I think a lot of the time when we're feeling anxious is because we don't have clarity about something. And obviously with things like the pandemic, there's not that much clarity that we can get, but in the present moment we can get a lot of clarity if we really just get present and connected to ourselves, because using the pandemic as an example, we can't change anything about it really at this stage. So I think when you meditate and get present in the moment, you start to realize that there really isn't much point in you stressing about it, because there's really nothing you can do about it. And then with other examples, if you're stressing about what job you should pick, or where you'd like to live, or what you should even say to somebody who's annoyed you, or whatever it might be, by meditating and centering yourself and connecting on a deeper level to yourself, that's often when you get so much clarity, because all the answers that we need are within us, but a lot of the time in today's society we become so disconnected from that. So that's kind of the problem of what causes us to have so much anxiety. So I definitely suggest meditating, connecting to yourself, and then you will get so much clarity, which will help you with your anxiety as well. Also, I suggest journaling. You can do this after meditation, or even if you don't fancy doing any meditation, journaling and writing down again gives you so much clarity. And if you have more of like an analytical brain, I would suggest doing this thing where you write down so what the worst case scenario is, the likelihood of that happening, and then how you could resolve that. And you know, if it's something like you could die, then obviously that's a pretty bad outcome. But then if you look at the likelihood of that happening, then really the likelihood is probably so minute that then the solution would be that there's really no point in stressing about it because the likelihood is so small. But then with other things, you know, the likelihood might be greater, but then the outcome of what would be the worst case scenario that could potentially happen isn't actually that bad, and you could come up with a solution from that situation, then that can relax you as well. So anyway, I really hope this has helped some people. I invite you to try some of these techniques, not just now, but even after this whole situation is over. They really help me. And as I said, I have suffered from acute anxiety in the past, and I'm still kind of working on my anxiety even in the present moment. So yeah, if anyone needs any extra help with this, just send me a DM to my Instagram, which I've linked below. And yeah, hopefully I can help you even more. Anyway, lots of love.